I haven't gone back to India in a long, long time. It's almost been with the quote unquote pandemic in the last 7 years. I used to go back to India probably once every 2 years, and I haven't done that for almost 7 years. So this time I went back to India. In fact, I went back to my village, which is in deep, deep, deep South India. If you look at the map of India, you'll see India is shaped like a triangle at the bottom. And India has about 22, 27 states, and it's changing constantly. But I went back to the state of Tamil Nadu, Tamilnadu. It's on the southeast coast of India. The main city there is a city called Chennai, which used to be called Madras. And our village is way down even south. In fact, if you go from Chennai, you have to go west and then south, so southwest. And it's in a place called Rajapalayam. And the village is Muhur, Muhavoor. Muham in Tamil means face. And it's actually the place where in ancient times, two of these warring kings met to actually come to terms and actually have peace. So it's called Muha, which means face, the land where two faces met. But I went back because it's a very special place for me. It's where I was inspired to pursue my interest in medicine and also my interest in systems and politics, etc. And so, I did a couple of posts on social media, but I really didn't do any videos. And I really took I sort of did a fast in some ways to do some serious reflection. When you're in India, you recognize that the parents in India, particularly even today, they really have a great respect for education. Because if you grow up very poor with nothing, and you realize you live in a very corrupt environment, the only objective way for you to make it out of there, in fact, you have a glimmer of hope, is if you get educated. In India, at the time when my parents were young, growing up in the 1940s, the caste system was extremely strong in India. Now there's some more awakening about it. And for them to make it out of that was quite extraordinary. My mom, as a young woman who came from a broken household, the father had run off, realized that she frankly couldn't depend on anyone. So she went and got educated. In fact, she got a degree in mathematics and a degree in statistics at a time when women, particular of her background, were never supposed to get educated. My dad, who had grown up in war-torn Burma, he got his first book when he was when he came back to India, and he learned under a mango tree on an old blackboard, writing with chalk that he would actually make. And I went back to that school, which is also in that town. And I haven't shared this with a lot of people, but I was proud to see that, I had donated money to build several wings of of the school, where now we educate 1,500, 2,000 kids who are outside sitting under the rain. So it was all really good to see all of this and remember where I came from. And what I recognized was that education is ultimately the way out, which I've talked about. Now, in the modern world, in the United States, what's happened is the educational system essentially takes our kids and tells them what to think. It is really not teaching them how to think, or it doesn't teach them to think, in fact. And in the current world, we live in a world of complex systems, which I've talked about. And without the ability to think in this world of system thinking, you can literally just control people by telling them what to think. And so when I wrote System and Revolution, which, by the way, I'll talk about this. This book is now made free for everyone, because I think this is a book that every child should have, every adult should have. And I say that not to just get this book out or my name out there, but because the knowledge and the curriculum in this book is really necessary for our times, and it's what is really going to make the change. And when I reflected over the last 4 or 5 years, I realized that all of you, the videos we've done, the educational stuff, the movement on the ground, the campaign we ran, had a tremendous impact. I was walking around in India, be it a small village or a big mall in the city, and random people would say, "Hey, I saw this video that you did on the election systems. I can't believe the US election system is this bad." Or, "Hey, I saw the facts that you invented email. What a racist bunch of people those liberals are at Wikipedia. Or thank you so much for your video. It really helped me through the quote unquote pandemic. I learned about all the supplements, etc. When I was coming on the plane back, the American Airlines, some of the stewardesses on there, they have now changed their policy to remove no more masks on there. And they said, thank you so much, Dr. Shiva. We watched your video and explaining to us what the real issue with masks are. So our movement, not just the videos I did, but all of you getting on the ground, taking the courses, has had a massive impact that Tucker Carlson will never talk about, that the mainstream media will never talk about. But if you really look at it objectively, it was our movement, because we took the systems approach, is the one that really exposed the foundations of this quote unquote pandemic, what the real issues were, that the real issue is that we have something called the immune system and that we need to boost it. We got hundreds of millions of views on our videos before the censorship took place, but we impacted a lot of people. We've saved a lot of people's lives through our video and gave people a whole new perspective. And that was, on the health side, the immune system stuff, talking about what the real issue is with the quote unquote pro or anti-vax movement that is beyond vax and anti-vax. It's really about the right medicine for the right person at the right time. And that concept, that systems approach, has affected hundreds of millions of people, or one could argue probably billions of people all over the world. And then we were then brought into the entire issue when I ran for office, as many of you participated in helping us all over the world or in the United States, where we found out that in the United States, elections are frankly selections. It was our movement that really brought to the forefront that irrespective of the right wing or the left wing, there's a lot of people on the left who deny there's a problem, and there's a lot of crazy nut jobs on the right who try to, talk about China or someone else doing it, which I've been critical of. Our movement took an objective role beyond left and right and showed that there are significant issues within the chain of custody issue, within the fact that election officials are allowing systems to be in place that violate U.S. federal law. We went after the real heart of the issues, and more recently we talked about the signature verification system, how that's flawed. And this was beyond left or right. And we actually spoke about the real issues. And then when it came to the real free speech issues, it was our movement which brought to the forefront from our historic lawsuit that it is not big tech which is the problem. It is much deeper. It is the fact that the governments of the world have created an unholy alliance with big tech. I was thrown off Twitter, not by Twitter, but by the government of Massachusetts, who had Twitter silence me. We exposed the concept of laundering speech, laundering censorship. Governments launder censorship. But one of the important things I want to talk about, which I've talked about many times, is that when we take a systems approach, we need to get over something called reductionism. And in System and Revolution, I talk about it. And by the way, we've made the book absolutely free. If you go to vashiva.com/join, you can get it for free. You just have to cover shipping and handling. This book is really a consolidation of about 50 years of engineering systems theory. In the village that I grew up in India, there was a very great man who also came from the nearby village. His name was Kamaraj. This guy only had an 8th grade education. At that time in India in the 40s, the upper caste elites, the Brahmins, would say, oh, the lower castes are dumb and they're stupid. And, they shouldn't be educated. So people of my background weren't supposed to get educated because we were fundamentally stupid. What Kamaraj did was he realized that there was an interconnection between liberation and health. He realized most of the lower caste people weren't getting any food. They were too poor. They weren't getting access to protein. So he implemented the school lunch program, which gave people protein, albeit it came from vegetable protein, but it was protein. Within one generation, you see people's education improve. They graduate high school, college. And I was a direct product of that interconnection between health and truth and science. So he had a systems approach. So essentially, if you go to Systems Health, if you go to vashiva.com/join, one of the things we've done is the course that we have, the Foundations of Systems, which took me many years to develop. I've made that. We've given it's a course that's we've offered it at biggest universities, but we've given a very large scholarship to every adult, so it's even more accessible. But more importantly, we want to make all of you literally become philanthropists. So it's not just billionaires or philanthropists. Once you take the course and you pass it, you have the right to give it to as many children as you want. So think about what I'm saying. You can give this course to as many kids as you want, the Foundations of Systems course. So I want to encourage all of you to do that and take advantage of that. When I went to India, I went back to that village where I grew up, and there's nearly 2,000 kids. And when I come back tomorrow, I'll play you some videos. We have some great video clips. People are very excited that I came back. But one of the things I did was we gave this course to all the kids at no cost. So I want you to take the Foundations of Systems course so you learn how to think, learn to think in the modern world. And then you can be a philanthropist and give this course to, you want to give it to 1 million people, give it to them. You want to give it to a local school in your area, give it to them. But the bottom line is that our movement for truth, freedom, and health has had massive impact. So much impact that we have really opened the eyes on elections in this country. We have changed the narrative on what it takes to get real health. We are really brought to the foundations of what it will take to get free speech, which is breaking this unholy alliance between government and big tech. So as we go into this next phase, I look forward to all of you being co-collaborators. We're going to have videos where we want you to participate. We're going to do lots of panels. We want to highlight some of the successes that many of our warriors and scholars are having every day, taking the course in their community. So that's where it's going to get exciting, because we're going to really refine the point here that each one of you are heroes, and it's a great honor for me to be back, and I look forward to working with all of you. Anyway, be well, and I'll be back tomorrow, and I'm going to share with you some of the videos from my trip to India, and I'm going to talk to you about the Flexner report. I'm going to talk to you about how the indigenous people that I grew up with have a whole different way of looking at health and the body as a system, and they still practice that today, and how the Flexner report was a way of destroying traditional and indigenous medicine. We'll talk about that tomorrow and what we can do to change that. So I hope to do that tomorrow. Thank you. Be well.